Acupressure is acupressure is totally different.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadrashu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhakti Bhatvi Nastiki. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanto Radha Kanta Namastute तप्त कंचना गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पातरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः मुखं करोति वाचालां भङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातथं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय कलयुग पावन धर्म हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय ISKCON founder Acharya His Divine Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shrimal Bhaktavind ki jai, Nitai Gaur Nandi Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So, welcome you all to our next verse today that we are going to go through. And this is again very powerful verse. In previous verse, we studied that this verse is basically the vastu of Bhagavatam. And according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it talks about Bhagwan, it talks about Krishna, it talks about Madhurya Rasa, Radha and Krishna, and Bhakti. And then we also saw that how Bhagavatam can be compared with Adhyatma Dipo, Arko, and then Mohini Murti and Galitam Phalam. And then we saw that how the rest of the subject that presented in the Bhagavatam is going to align with this metaphorical example that was presented by Srimad Thakur. So this is another beautiful verse, and this verse basically talks about the contribution of Srimad Bhagavatam, how Srimad Bhagavatam can contribute to mankind. So read the verse, read the translation, and then go through some principal learnings, principal takeaway that we have to take out of this verse. Again, this is not a lecture, this is a study course. So our intent is not to basically go off the tangent, rather just trying to make you understand the the main essence or essential points that is delivered through this verse. So we'll recite the verse. Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastvamatra vastu sivadam tapotrayo namulanam istrayo tri mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite किम वा परैर ईश्वरः सद्यो हृदय अवरुध्यते यत्र पृथिवी शुश्रूषुभिस्तत्क्षणात्. So that's the verse, and you will see a little different understanding of this verse than whatever you had so far, or you might have similar understanding, but let's dive deeper into it. So he says that Ishvara Sadhya Hridaya Arudhyate, the Supreme Lord, becomes immediately captured in the heart of the Kritivihi, accomplished devotee, by hearing Bhagavatam. So the Supreme Lord immediately captured in the heart of Kritivihi, accomplished devotee, by hearing. But even by those who have suddenly developed a desire to hear Susrusubhis. So two type of personalities mentioned here. We'll talk about that. Prithivihi and Susrusubhis. Prithivis are the one who are accomplished devotee. And we'll see what is the meaning of accomplished devotee. And Susrusubhis are one who hears suddenly or who are beginners. But this does not happen with other work. So Bhagavatam, either one is Kritivihi or Susrusubihi, at due course of time, Ishvara Sadhya Hridaya Uruddhate. In their heart, the love, the prema for Supreme Personality of Godhead will be captured. And that does not happen. It's very important. That's why I had to give a separate line. That doesn't happen with other work. So that says how important is Bhagavatam. How important is Bhagavatam? In the Bhagavatam alone, Srimad Bhagavate, Mahamuni Kriti, which is created by Lord Himself. We'll see what is the exact actual meaning of Mahamuni. Is presented the real permanent object, Vedyam Vastvam Vastu. So Vedyam is Veda, Vastvam real, Vastu object. So in Bhagavatam, which is created by Lord Himself, presents the real permanent object which can be understood by those without selfish intentions. Nirmat Saranam. And this Bhagavatam bestows auspiciousness and release from the material world of miseries. So Shivadam, and we'll see later what is the how Rupa Goswami give the definition of this Shivadam. And then Tapa Trayon Moolanam. It basically frees one from the suffering of the material misery and bring all auspiciousness. In the Bhagavatam alone, Atra, Atra, and Atra three times. In the Bhagavatam alone, is presented the process for attaining the highest object, Savaipamsa, Savaipamsa. So, what is the real occupation for all the living being? Paramo. And what is that Paramo? Ahitukiya patihata. It is devoid all of all material goals and liberation. Dharma projihita kaitava. So, what is that highest object? That highest object is devoid of all material goals and liberations. So this is beautiful meaning that comes out of this verse that says that this Srimad Bhagavatam can formally capture the prema of Supreme Personality of Godhead, both in a beginner or in a accomplished devotee, which is created by Lord Himself, which can be understood by a person who have selfish intention and by formally formally situated in the prema, in the bhakti, the living being receives Sivadam, all auspiciousness, and due to that, it releases all the material suffering. This is not possible. Atra. This is not happening. That's why later on we'll see in chapter 4, Narad Muni will say that give them direct process, Paramadharma, through which they can come to Krishna or they would know Krishna without any anyabhilasita, without any other ulterior desire. So Bhagavatam basically rejects all other kaito. Kaito here means cheating process, and formally situates both Kritivi and Susrusuvi to the highest object. And what is the highest object? The love for Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a beautiful verse. So the meaning of this verse is very deep. We should meditate on this verse. Then let's see what are the some of the key contribution Bhagavatam has. We'll try to understand that a little bit one by one. Kritivihi and Susrusubihi, both accomplished devotee and even those who have suddenly developed desire to hear, both type of devotee. Dharma projita kaitava. It basically refutes the desire or the goal that person has for dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. By the way, we'll talk about that. Uh, Dharma, artha, kama, moksha does not cheat anyone. But the person who is following dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, that person is cheating himself. So we cheat ourselves. The religion or the scripture do not cheat us. Nirmat saranam satam. And the qualification for that kritivihi, for the accomplished devotee, is that he is nirmat saranam satam. He is free from any envious. Vedyam vastvam vastu, the real essence of Vedic teaching. This is going to be presented by Bhagavatam. Mahamuni Krite, it is compiled by Lord Himself. Tapa trayon mulanam, it frees from the threefold miseries, Adhyatmic, Adi Daivik, and Adi Bhautik. And finally delivers the highest most object. So that's very important, right? Finally it delivers the highest most object. So let's see some of these things a little bit in a deeper way. So we'll try to understand Kritivi, Susrusuvi one by one, and then we'll see how does it comes along. So Sri Krishna, we're talking about Kritivihi, a person who is accomplished. Sri Krishna is immediately brought under the control and captured in the heart by the accomplished person who are devoid of selfishness and who are mentioned in the verse as being qualified for this scripture. So accomplished devotees are one who are nirmat sarana. This indicates that prema arises in the devotee since the Lord is brought under control only by prema. So this kritivi devotee who are nirmat saranam, in their heart the prema is arising. prema will arise. Pranaya rasayanya dhrit angri padmaha. Pranaya rasanaya dhrit angri padmaha. He says that the Lord lotus feet are tied by ropes to the devotee. So that's the prema we are talking about. Narodyanti mam yogo na sankhyaम धर्मैव च न स्वधायास तपस्त्यागो निस्तः पूर्तम न दक्षिणा वर्तानि यज्ञास छंदमासि तीर्थानि नियमः यमः यथा अरुन्धे सतसंगः शरो संगापाहो हिमाम. So this form fixing of prema that happens in the heart of a accomplished devotee, that cannot happen. Na rodhyati mam. That form love for Supreme Lord will not appear by yoga process, yogo na sankhya, dharmi vacha, by following other religious practices, swadhyaya, tapas, tyag, by charity, by donations, vartani yagyas chandamashi, or by doing the varta for demigods, tirthani, going to holy places, niyama yamaha, or by accepting or rejecting through do's and uh, don't. Yatha arundhe satsanga sarva sangapaho himam, which can be easily achieved by satsanga, by associating with the pure devotees of Supreme Personality of Godhead, which will survey sangapaho, which will burn all other sangas, all other attachment. Sarva sanga, sangapaho. It will it will remove all the sanga here refers to attachment, all the attachment. So just through uh, attachment by pure devotees or two pure devotees of Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is going to be accomplished by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what Srimad Bhagavatam does, right? It presents the pastime of pure devotees and Lord. So Srimad Bhagavatam alone can help one formally get grounded in pure devotional service, which cannot be achieved by all of these processes. Ashtanga Yoga system engage in philosophical analysis of the elements of material nature, Sankhya, practice non-violence and other ordinary principles of piety, chant the Veda, perform penances, take to the renounced order of life, tapastyaga, execute sacrificial performance and dig wells, nista purtam, plant trees and perform other public welfare activities, give in charity, dakshina, carry out severe vows, vartani, worship the demigods, yajna chandamshi, chant confidential mantra, visit only places to accept major and minor disciplinary injunctions. But even by performing such activities, one does not bring me under his control. This is Krishna talking to who he's talking to. He's talking to, I'm forgetting, Uddhava. He's talking to Uddhav in Srimad Bhagavatam 11 Canto. So directly it's coming from Krishna. So accomplished devotee can easily achieve the prema. The Lord's lotus feet are tied. This is a powerful statement. The Lord's lotus feet are tied by ropes to the devotee. And how that happened? Yatha, yatha varundhe satsangaha, by associating with the pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what happened to Susrusuvis? There is another beautiful verse that we saw in last session also. It says that Yasvanubhavam Aklasuti Saramekam Adhyatma Deepam Atitir Satam Tamovandham Samsarinam Karunaya Purana Guhyam Tam Sunum Upayami Guru Muninam. So this Bhagavatam is talking about the Susrusuvis, people who are not well accomplished. What happened to them? Samsari Nam. The word that is being used here is Samsari Nam. A person who is bound up in the cycle of repeated birth and death. Samsari Nam. Karunayah Puran Guhyam. To that person, to that samsari person, Ved Vyas or Vyas Dev, through his compassion or by his compassion, gives the Puran Guhyam, the most confidential knowledge of the Purana. That acts as a Adhyatma Deepam. We talked about that. That will act as a lamp. And what that would do, it will dispel all the darkness and firmly develop the faith towards Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Bhagavatam is not only for qualified, accomplished person, but it also does miracle for unaccomplished personalities. Whoever approach Bhagavatam sooner or later, they will be fully situated in pure devotional service. So, what is difference between Kritivi and Susrusuvi? Let's see that. Krishna is brought under control immediately for those who are accomplished or qualified. So a person who are nirmat saranam, for them Krishna is brought under control, who are accomplished or qualified immediately. So for a accomplished person, that prema will awaken immediately, whereas it happens after a slight delay for those who are not so qualified. Susrusubhi. Both types of person, the accomplished and unaccomplished, are qualified for Bhagavatam. So what is the difference? The difference is that Kriti Vihi, who are Nirmat Saranam, in their heart, the love for Supreme Lord will awaken immediately. But that doesn't mean that the person who are not accomplished, they will be bereft. No, they would be also receiving the love. But that would happen with slight delay. And Bhagavatam itself, by studying the Bhagavatam itself, this Susrusuvi person will develop the Nirmat Saranam quality. This result is not achieved by any other scripture or other practices. Kimwa preh. What is the need for that's how the translation goes. What is the need of other literature? Because this result, both for Kritivi and Susrusuvis, are accomplished alone by studying Srimad Bhagavatam. So we saw, let me complete it and then we'll have some discussion. I know if we get into the QA, then we'll might not be able to, get through it. So let me complete few slides and then we'll have some discussion. So Kriti Vihi, we just saw. Susrusuvi, we just saw. For both, Bhagavatam is the medicine. Now, let's try to understand Mahamuni Krite. Mahamuni Krite, sometimes translation, literal translation could be it's created by Vyasdev. But if Vyasdev has compiled Srimad Bhagavatam, then why he would call himself Mahamuni? कस्मै जेन विभासितोऽयम् अतुलो ज्ञानप्रदीपः पुरा तद्रूपेण च नारादाय मुनये कृष्णाय तद्रूपिणा योगीन्द्राय तद् आत्मनाथ भागवत्रताय करुणायतास् तत्सुदं विमलं विशोकम् अमृतं सत्यं परम धीमहि. Beautiful verse. Satyam Param Dhimahi. Once again, let us meditate upon that pure, spotless Tat Sudam Bimalam Vishokam, to that purest form of the Lord, Narayan, who is free from suffering and death, and who Kashmai Jena Vibhasito, who previously revealed this incomparable lamp of knowledge, Atulo Jnana Pradeepa, to Brahma. So the real compiler, Bhagavatam, a real source, not compiler, source. Real source of Bhagavatam is Lord Krishna himself. And we will study that. Who revealed that knowledge, who gave that knowledge to Brahma. And then Tadrupena cha Naradaya, Lord Brahma gave it to Lord Narad. Munaya Krishnaya Tadrupina. And Narad gave it to Krishna Dvapayan, Vyasdev, Munaye Krishnaya Tadrupina. And Lord Vyasdev, Jogindraya Tad Atmanatha, he gave it to his own son, who is Sukdev Goswami, Bhagavat Rataya Runaya. And by his compassion, he gave that Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So, Mahamuni Krite is basically telling here that the original compiler or original source of Bhagavatam is Lord himself. And you will hear that he gave 4 seed verse to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma spoke to Narad. Narad spoke to Vyasdev. And Vyasdev further gave 18,000 verses. And it is the 18,000 verses are purport of those 4 verses. So those 4 seed verses are coming from Lord Narayan, Lord Krishna. And then Vyasdeva gave the purport. And then his Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada gave further purport of those 18,000 verses, Samsari Nam, for the conditioned living being of
Prabhu,
this.
I did not understand. What is the 4 verses? The
Will
condensed.
will come. Just try to remember these 4 verses. Will come. We have 6 cantos to study. So the seed verses will come in second canto when we'll get into there. So Narayan, when this creation is about to start, uh, at that time, Lord Brahma, when he was created, he did not know what is his duty, what he has to do. He saw nothing. Then he did tapasya, tapa, and then after that, Lord Narayan revealed to him and then he gave him those 4 seed verses.
Okay, Prabhu.
And then after that, the creation started happening. So we'll come to that. But I would assume that all of you would know that Bhagavatam has 4 seed verses that was given to Lord Brahma. So that's the verse we are talking about, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
So the original source of Bhagavatam is Lord Himself, and then from Him it comes. Mahamuni Krite, Prabhupada translate that Vyasdev. And Vyasdev is Krishna himself, right? Grantha avatar, Sakti Avasesh avatar. So that way also is none different than Lord. And I heard that Sakti Avasesh avatar is basically empowered Jiva. We call Prabhupada also a Sakti Avasesh avatar. But in this, so sometimes when there are not qualified person, Lord himself takes that position. Like sometimes Lord will come as Indra, sometimes he will come as Lord Brahma. So wherever there is gap and there is no qualified person, Lord himself comes. So Laghu Bhagavat Amrita says that in this Kali, or before the inception of the Kali, the Vyasdev who came was Lord himself. And we'll talk about that when we get into 3rd chapter. When we'll talk about Vyasdev, we'll talk about that a little bit. So the point that is being made here is that the original source of Bhagavatam is Lord himself. This is pretty good, right? So we are receiving Bhagavatam from Lord himself. So, okay, after setting up those 3 foundation, Kritivihi, Susrusuvihi, Mahamuni Krite. Bhagavatam is a scripture that will help both Kritivihi and Susrusuvihi. It's compiled by Lord himself. Then what does it do to the people who are hearing it, who are reading this work? What it will do to us? It says that it will give that object which is fixed in the beginning, middle, and end of time. Vastvam. It's not avastu, it's vastu, which doesn't change. That's vastu can be understood by those without any selfish motivation. And even those who are selfish, by hearing this work, lose their selfishness. Even the selfish will have enthusiasm for hearing it, for even such person can understand the work. So both Susrusuvi and Kritivi will receive this Vedyam Vastvam Vastu. And this Vedyam Vastvam Vastu, this permanent object, what is that permanent object? That permanent object is those five explanation. So can we go one by one? What are those 5 Vastu? What is number 1? Prabhu says, Ashok Prabhu says, Bhagwan. Thank you, Prabhu. Second one,
Krishna.
Krishna.
Madhan.
Third one,
Madhan Krishna.
Radha Krishna.
Radha
Radha
Krishna.
and Krishna. Fourth one,
Bhakti.
Madhurya Rasa.
Madhurya Rasa. Fifth one,
Bhakti Yoga.
yes. So those 5, as per Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, those 5 Vastu, which is real Vastu, will be revealed in the form, by form, Lord's form, through his name, through his pastime. So these are the real objects. The name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, real object. His form is real object. His pastimes, his abodes such as Vaikuntha, his devotees, bhakti and bhakti. These are the real objects. So bhakti is a real object. And we'll little bit try to emphasize on that as we go along. Bhakti is a very powerful, Shakti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's Krishna's Shakti, internal Shakti, Bhakti Shakti. So a person who receive uh, the taste for Bhakti, they are very empowered personality, very, very empowered. They are receiver of the real Vastu. Because, so all of these, let's see what are the real Vastu, Lord's name, his form, his qualities, his abodes, such as Vaikuntha, his devotees are also Vastu, and Bhakti for Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is also Vasta Vastu. Because other real objects, the things of this world are not permanent. It should be understood that though both Vaikuntha and the material world are real, but Vaikuntha is really substantial, really Vastavam Vastu, and the material world is Avastu. So just the example given to make the point clear that as Vaikuntha is Vastavastu, that would reveal to us very easily, than saying that the name, form, qualities. And here's another thing, very important thing for us to meditate upon: his devotees. I think I should have used the capital H. The devotees of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? We hear their pastime, right? Narad Muni's pastime, Prahlad Muni's, Prahlad Maharaj pastime, Vyasdev pastime. We release. We receive bhakti by reciting this pastime of the pure devotees. So these are the Vedyam Vastvam Vastu. And what will happen? What will happen when we receive this knowledge? It gives Sivadam, it's all auspicious in the form of becoming an associate of the Lord by receiving the prema. So what it does, it brings all auspiciousness, Sivadam, and then tapatrayo namulanam, and it releases from the miseries. And miseries here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, even liberation, like Brahman Nirvanam or Paramatma Nirvanam, those are also not permanent Vastam Vastu, rather going back to home, back to Krishna is the Vastam Vastu. So it gives what it gives, this creation of the Lord himself, Mahamuni Krite, gives the Vastam Vastu, which brings Sivadam, and it removes all the misery. So let us little bit continue talking on what action does this work recommend. Okay, so what it does to hearer, what does it bring to the hearer, what the hearer will gain, what it gives, what he will gain, and then what action does this work recommend. And I will spend some more time here. So it rejects that path which cheats, which deceive a person from the real goal. In other words, Sakam karma is rejected. The prefix pra indicates that even the path that promises liberation is also rejected. That might be a little heavier. That's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. Niskam Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga with its limbs of sense and mind control, Ashtanga Yoga are also rejected. But Param Dharma, pure Bhakti Yoga, is to be performed. So this Bhagavatam rejects Sakam Karma, Gyan Yoga, or Gyan Yoga, or Ashtanga Yoga. All other, processes that does not bring ones to the Param goal, ultimate destination. All of that will be
Prabhu, can
rejected.
I ask a question?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, I mean, it's our understanding that only doing those processes we can progress, like Niskam Karma or other type of activities. And it's a kind of a sequential process of really gaining the bhakti. So, how do you directly perform Parma Dharma or pure bhakti?
So, Prabhuji, bhakti is not achieved through Sakam Karma, Niskam Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, or Ashtanga Yoga. That number one doubt has to be cleared. Bhakti, Anya Vilasitash, bhakti is not dependent on any other thing. Yadrikshaya. Bhakti does not depend on performing Sakam Karma Yoga or Niskam Karma Yoga or Gyan Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. In Bhagavad Gita, and we'll talk about that. In Bhagavad Gita, first 6 chapter, Krishna is talking about, third chapter he talks Sakam Karma, and then he switched to Niskam Karma Yoga, and then fourth chapter, very much he talks about Niskam Karma Yoga, and in fifth chapter he says that now Arjun, through the process of Niskam Karma Yoga, you have sufficient purification, so you are now purified to hear Jnana, and then it leads to Ashtanga Yoga. So on that yoga ladder, bhakti comes, but bhakti is not the outcome of performing Sakam Karma or Niskam Karma or Gyan Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. It should be very clear. Brahmanda Bharmitte Kono Bhagyavan Jiv, Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. The source of the bhakti is bhakti itself.
Itself. Mhm.
So for
But I
example,
mean, but there has to be a process. You cannot just be a bhakta just like that.
the process of bhakti
That's
is
what.
Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smarnam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dashyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam.
Right.
So the process of bhakti, Prabhuji, is 64 limbs that we have studied in act of devotion.
Mhm.
Those are the process. So what is the process of Sakam Karma or Ashram Dharma? In Sakam Karma, your activity is Varnashram Dharma. And what is the goal? Fruitive results. In Niskam Karma, what is your activity? Varnashram Dharma. What is the goal? Not attached to result. In Jnana Yoga, what is the activity? The limbs of Jnana, which is Sankhya Yoga or essence of the Shastras, Upanishad. In Ashtanga Yoga, what is the activity? The limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga, Niyama that you have, you have gone through in 6th chapter.
Yeah.
Pratyahara, Pranayama, Sadhana, not sadhana, dharana, and then finally leading to the samadhi. So the primary activity in Ashtanga Yoga are limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, not the bhakti. And I'll summarize that in next slide. But in Bhakti Yoga, the primary limb of bhakti is those 64 limbs. And out of those 64, 5 are prominent. Association of the devotee, chanting the name of Krishna, reading the books, going to holy.
Holy place.
Yes, so those are the limbs. So as a devotee, are we doing, dharana or samadhi or anything like that? No, we are, doing devotional service. We are hearing right now. So all of this yoga has their principal limb. bhakti has its own limb. So by following this through the process of jnana or ashtanga, one cannot come to the bhakti unless and until the bhakti is given to by devotee. But these process, now you would say, what is the importance of this process? These steps will purify, make you a suitable candidate. That when you see His Grace Lal Gopal Prabhu, when he says that come to temple, you will go to temple. Not everybody will come to temple. Not everybody has desire to serve. But for samsari naam, for conditioned living entity, this process bring the purification. But bhakti has to come from Lord or from his devotee. Devotee will give the devotion. Bhakti itself is the cause of bhakti. So is it clear?
Yeah. I
So
thought these processes go hand in hand, but that's fine.
So
That's
what do
okay.
you mean by hand? It's nice. I can bring some slides if you like. But
No,
what
no,
exactly
no.
you mean by
I thought
it goes
that
hand to hand?
you do all those activities like nishkam karma and those things to actually elevate you to the level, and bhakti. Obviously, those processes they all these processes go hand in hand,
Okay, so I
because
think you want to
you
see this
cannot.
slide then. Can I share this slide with you? Are you seeing this?
Sure.
Okay, so there are three types of bhakti. This is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur.
Right.
Guni Bhuta Bhakti, Pradhan Bhuta Bhakti, and Kevalya Bhakti. Guni Bhuta Bhaktis are bhakti where the limbs of jnana and karmas are prominent, but there is little bit bhakti.
Okay.
So that's what we are talking about.
Yes.
There is some bhakti, but bhakti is not prominent. And that's what the uttam bhakti is gyan karmanavritam. Anyavilasita sunyam gyan karmanavritam. So when you are free from all of this gyan and karma, then you perform kevalya bhakti. So what we are talking here, param dharma is prema bhakti. Is clear, Prabhu?
Yeah.
So in guna bhuta bhakti, there is very little bit of the bhakti. In pradhan bhuta bhakti, bhakti is dominant, but it's supported by gyan and karma. Your bhakti is supported by gyan and karma. Like we walk and we have some support, right? So we are walking by ourselves, but we are walking with some support. But Uttam Bhakti says, and we'll talk as the flow of the slide will go, we'll come back to this again. Kevalya Bhakti is Ahitukya Pratihata. So what we are talking here, Prabhu, we are talking about the Kevalya Bhakti. Is it clear, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. So it is called Parama or Supreme because Bhakti is the best process, because it gives all types of happiness. And even though it bestows lesser benediction, it remains uncontaminated. Thus, this verse indicates the action to be performed. What action to be performed? What is the action for a devotee? Bhagavatam says, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti adhokshaje ahitukiya pratihata yatma suprasiddhati. The real occupation of the mankind, pumsam, is to engage in paro dharma. Parmo dharma yato bhakti adhokshaje. The devotional service of that Supreme Personality of Godhead who cannot be perceived through the senses. And how that to be done? Ahituki apratihata. Ahituki anyavilasita shunyam. Apratihata gyan karmadya navritam. So please understand this. Both goal and action has to be pure. This verse says that both goal and action has to be pure. To perform the pure bhakti, one's goal has to be pure and one's action has to be pure. What is the goal? The goal is to have love of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Annavilasita Sunni. Any other desire which is high, I'm saying it theoretical, I don't have any understanding of this. For sake of sharing this, let's understand how Vishnu Bhakti Thakur explains it. So, Annavilasita Shunyam, that should be our goal. No other goal. I have a desire to just go and serve Sri Krishna Balaram Bhagwan. And that's purity of the goal. And then action, Gyan Karma Anavritam. I'm not doing this devotional service for any other, either Jnana or Karma, nothing. So both goal and action has to be pure. And devotional service, when we are serving with the goal that I have to achieve the pure unalloyed love, and I'm not going to be really striving for Gyan or Karma, then both our goal and action becomes pure. And in that case, one is engaged in Kevalya Bhakti, unalloyed, pure devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what Bhagavatam does is that, it's been said here, that Bhagavatam basically reject anything which is not helping the follower to come to this stage of Ahitukya Pratihata. So Bhagavatam will reject that Kato Dharma. And it will accept the teaching that is presented somewhere else, which will bring one to the stage of pure devotional service. So what does Bhagavatam recommend for followers to do? It recommends the followers to do pure devotional service, which is Ahituki Pratihata. And that pure devotional service is Sivadam and Tapo Trayano Mulanam. So we little bit try to understand some of those from Nectar of Devotion. Is it clear so far?
Yes.
Ramgujar Prabhu, are we okay?
Yes, Prabhu. This is wonderful. Thank you.
So let's see Sivadam part. This one we have studied in Nectar of Devotions very clearly. And you will see how nicely it aligning with this particular verse. Klesa Agni Subhada Moksha Laghut Krita Sudurlabha Chandranand Visheshatma Sri Krishna Karsani Chasa. So Rupa Goswami gives, we are late, no, 9:15, we still have some time. So Rupa Goswami gives that devotional service has these 6 unique characters. Pure devotional service has these 6 unique character. What it does, Kles Agni, it destroy the suffering, Tapa, Trayona Mulanam. Shivadam, Subhada, it is bestowal of the auspiciousness. And then what it does, Moksh Laghut Krita, when pure devotional service is awakened, then the desire for moksha, that I will merge into Supreme Personality of Godhead, I'll become God one day, that desire is laghu krita. It's nullified, it's minimized. And Sandranand Visheshatma, it manifests the pure love, the concentrated bliss, Shivadam again, that concentrated bliss which finally takes one to Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna Karshani, it attracts the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Rupa Goswami also talks about how the pure devotion does some of these things. It destroys all the suffering. It's Subhada, it bestows all the auspiciousness. And Anya Vilasita Sunyam, any other desire in the form of liberation, that desire is also completely disregarded. It manifests concentrated bliss, again happiness, the higher bhava type of happiness, which finally attracts the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse also very well align with what we just talked here. We are saying here that this gives the happiness, material happiness, liberation, and prema. So this is very well aligned with what Rupa Goswami is teaching. So what Bhagavatam does, Bhagavatam is basically helping the follower to have Sivadam, receiver of the all auspiciousness, and removes all the suffering that he or she is going through. And then I would like to go through this slide. So we just went through this. Guna, I just spoke about Guni Bhuta Bhakti. Guni Bhuta Bhaktis are the bhakti where karma, jnana, or Ashtanga yoga is prominent, and there is some part of bhakti. So the limbs that is being followed here in Guna Bhuta Bhakti are the limb of karma, jnana, and yoga. Pradhan Bhuta Bhakti is the bhakti where bhakti is prominent, but it is still based on some karma, jnana, or yoga. The limb that is being followed here, the limbs which are being followed here are bhakti's limbs. 64 limbs that we have studied, 5 of them are prominent. So limbs that we follow are bhakti, but it is still little bit supported by jnana, karma, or yoga. Is clear? So in Pradhan Bhuta Bhakti, we are still performing devotional service, prominently devotional service with some support of jnana and karma. But in Kaivalya Bhakti, which is also called Ananya Bhakti, Akinchana Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti, there is no tinge of jnana or karma. And you can see here in the green rectangle, it's pure bhakti. So Bhagavatam, let me a little bit talk about that. So Bhagavatam do talks about Pradhan Bhuta Bhakti and do talks about Kaivalya Bhakti. But the emphasis is Kaivalya Bhakti. So Bhagavatam emphasis is, although it talks about Pradhan Bhuta Bhakti, in third canto you will hear, there are examples, some of the Falasruti that you will hear at the end of the chapters may appear, oh, this is not bhakti. This is something that a karmi will, by reading this chapter, by hearing this chapter, one will get XYZ. Oh, this is not bhakti. Yes. But that is given to inspire one to get deeper into the Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam promises that ultimately it will set one up for pure bhakti. So Bhagavatam talks about Pradhan Bhuta Bhakti and Kaivalya Bhakti, but its focus is Keval Bhakti. Bhagavad Gita, on the other hand, do talks, and that's what you are going at, Prabhuji. Bhagavad Gita do talks about Guna Bhuta Bhakti, Guni Bhuta Bhakti. First 6 chapter does talk about Guna Bhuta Bhakti. Krishna does help Arjun to start from Sakam to Niskam to Gyan Yoga, and then Gyan Yoga with Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is the highest stage of Gyan Yoga, by the way. So in my understanding. So Bhagavad Gita does talk about Guni Bhuta Bhakti. It does talk about Pradhan Bhuta Bhakti, and it does talk about Kaivalya Bhakti. But finally, Bhagavad Gita concludes with Kaivalya Bhakti. Srodharman Parityaja Mamekam Sarnam Praja. That beautiful verse. So Bhagavad Gita does talk about Kaivalya Bhakti, but it formally help one to come to the stage of Kaivalya Bhakti. So both these 3 types of bhaktis are talked in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavatam talks about Pradhan Bhuta Bhakti and Kevala Bhakti, but its focus is on Kevala Bhakti. And Chaitanya Charitamrita only talks Kevala Bhakti, and its focus is only Kevala Bhakti. So these are the three scriptures we have. Be very good at understanding the left, right, up, down, pros, cons, corners of these three literature systematically, thoroughly, because ultimately these literatures are aimed to develop that pure, unalloyed devotion to Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so that's what Bhagavatam does. It finally helps one come to the stage of pure devotional service, and then all of these 6 qualities of pure devotion will manifest. With that, I would like to give a pause here and have some discussion. You all please share within yourself, or if there is anything we can discuss as a group. I would like to stop sharing the screen here. Thank you, Prabhus, for this opportunity. Was it clear? The subject was clear or not? Dash
Yes.
into Mataji.
Yes,
Is there?
Prabhuji, it is clear. I just was thinking about Kevala Bhakti. What is the standard of Kevala Bhakti is so high. It's yeah, I was
No,
just
it's
thinking.
not high. Ahitukya Pratihata. The goal has to be pure. In fact, Rupa Goswami says, Anya Abhilashita Sunyam Gyan Karmadi Anavritam Anukulenu Krishnanu Sevanam Bhakti Uttamam. It's really, many of you are following pure devotion. You are pure devotee. So it's really, once you have taken the process of bhakti and you are seriously trying to follow with some guilt, then you are pure devotee. All of you are pure devotee, in my opinion. The definition that's given in Shastra, according to that, all of the personality here are pure devotee. So you are following pure devotion. As long as you are always striving to align with the value system that's given in the Shastra. Guru Shastra Sadhu Vakya Tineta Kariya Yakya. Narottam Das Thakur says. So, for example, if I do something wrong, I just end up saying something wrong to Ramakishore Prabhu. That's my swabhav. Right away in 2 minutes, I will call him and say, Prabhu, please forgive me. I'm so sorry. I ended up making this mistake. As long as I have that guilt, I'm performing pure devotion. So there is, you saw that, you want me to show the graph, Mataji, that you have shown multiple times? There is tug of war between swabhav and value system.
Yeah.
When we associate with devotee, our value system goes up. When we go into the temple in Sunday feast, I act much higher than I am when there is nobody around. My value system goes up. I look this, Sangha Shakti, right? But when I come within myself, my swabhava. Why this Prabhu is doing like that to me? He should not be doing like that to me. Let me call him and tell him. But I said something again. No, this introspection, filled up guilt.
Yes, Prabhuji, I understand that part. The thing is, like, we interact with so many people during the day. It's just not the devotees. You're at workplace, you're otherwise also you'll be doing so many things, maybe obligated things, and where it calls for uninterrupted, right? Unalloyed and uninterrupted and unconditional. Of course, maybe you try for unconditional, but uninterrupted is kind of seems like difficult when you are otherwise where you're not in association with devotees. Yeah, I understand. Even then, everyone the Lord is present everywhere in every person, whether they are devotees, non-devotees. But just I'm saying that it's very high to get there.
Yeah.
to realize every moment.
Yeah, I understand your point. Yes,
I-
Mataji. And the process will, sincerely, if we follow the process, then this process will take ourselves to that stage. Try, if we try best from our side. Ramkrishna Prabhu wants to say something. Prabhu, please go.
I was just gonna say, if I think you said this, or it was in a slide, where if we have constant desire though to serve, and take action, pure action, then even when we're at work, it's because it's constantly in our heart, right? So we're still striving to be a pure devotee. So then, to your point, we are a pure devotee, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I took away from that. I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as we are trying our best to go up where we are from. I mean, here is the thing. This is also very important in two ways. If I can just share, one way is that you yourself should not feel so down if you do something which is not what you want to do. You should know that you will still have some propensity, which is some behavior, which is outcome of your swabhav behavior, which is you know which is managed by guna. We have shown. Do you want me to show that slide, or you are following what I'm saying?
I am following
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
So don't be so heavy on yourself. That's number one. Number two, if you see somebody else doing some mistake, don't be heavy on that person also.
Yeah, that is out of question for me. I don't
Because
think
you
I'd
should
go
know
in that.
that others are also some swabhava.
Yeah.
Not everybody is fully aligned with the value system. And that's the process. This process will slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly will take one to the higher stage by constant, hearing, chanting very seriously, associating with devotee, looking at their lotus feet. All of these qualities slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly will start reducing your propensity that's coming out of the guna, and then you'll be aligned. So yes, Mataji, I'm not saying that when I said that we all are pure devotee, I'm not saying that we are perfected. Perfection has yet to come, but the devotional practice that we are doing is pure. It has to be pure. Bhakti is pure.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes,
Right, Mataji?
absolutely. Yes, yes. I was only thinking in the lines of like more when you're when you say in Varnashrama, I'm wife and I'm supposed to serve my husband, children as a mother, and then you have to serve at your company. I'm a manager, and you're in some certain controlling position, and it just becomes a little difficult to really draw the line where.
Dharma, we want to say something before we adjourn? Yeah. So Mataji, Varnashram, we'll talk about it. In my understanding, following your household responsibility is not Varnashram. It's your devotional service. The Varnashram dharma can be followed in guna, and Varnashram dharma can be also followed in transcendental stage. So devotee, like for example, somebody will say, "Oh, Prabhu, I saw you were washing pot in the kitchen." It's like karma. No, it's a devotional service. Washing the pot, mopping the floor, doing all of these services, anything that we do, gardening outside, weeding the weeds, anything in around, Sri Krishna Balaram Dham you do, it's devotional service. You prepare at your home, make food for your husband and wife, make sure that they are happy, and then you go to Krishna Balaram. It's all devotional service. So Varnashram dharma is little bit, the meaning sometimes is understood in a very confused way. But Varnashram dharma, whenever we say, we right away go to the Sakam karma. But that's not what it is. The dharma of Varna and Ashram can be followed even in devotional service too. And third canto, when we get there, we'll hear. When Kapil Dev is saying that to his mother, he will give all of these definitions from the perspective of devotional service.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji,
I totally understand everything that you're saying. I'm just saying that the
yes,
influences that we have around is kind of impacting you every minute,
yeah,
unless
sure, Mataji.
you're really strong.
Sure. Lal Gopal Prabhu, you have anything? You were saying something, Prabhu, please.
No, bro, no. I was just saying it's a nice discussion.
Thank you for the opportunities, and please forgive any offense, mistake that I made. Vanchkalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyayavasya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Assemble Bhakti Vrind ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Dandavad
Krishna.
Hare
pranams to
Krishna,
everybody.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you. Hare
Dandavad
Krishna. Hari
pranam.
Hari Bol.
Hare
Hare Bol.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare Hare.
Krishna. Thank you.